Bust It!
This here's a jam for all the fellas.
This here was One Hit Wonderland, where we take a look at bands and artists known for only one song. And we have a jam today. I can't believe I haven't done this yet. I get a lot of requests for this one. Well, if you want it, baby, you got it.
Does she wanna dance cause she likes the groove? So come on, fatso, and just bust the move.
It is the late 80s. Hip-hop is now almost 10 years old. And at this point, everyone at least knows what rap music is. But it's still kind of a niche genre. There hasn't been a whole lot of crossover to the mainstream yet, but that will end in 1989. No small thanks to one of the first and most enduring classics of pop rap. And that is, of course, Young MC's
And what comes next? Hey, bust the move.
Bust a Move.
Music comes on, people start to dance, but then you ate so much you nearly split your pants.
It's corny. It's cheesy. It reliably fills wedding reception dance floors to this day.
Reception's jumping, bass is pumping.
I love this song. I mean, yes, it's a very silly track. I think I would make a case for it, though, as a song of real importance. A key stepping stone for hip-hop's transition from the underground to the cultural juggernaut it is now. Hip-hop's move to the mainstream was rocky, and not all of it has held up well, but Bust a Move still gets a crowd moving, and you do still hear it today. The lyricism is a little clumsy.
Okay, smarty, go to a party.
The flow is really basic. The subject matter is kind of doofy, and it's not remotely edgy or dangerous. Public Enemy, this is not. But it still has one of the tightest grooves that ever lit up the rap charts, and it probably earned hip-hop hundreds of thousands of fans it didn't have before. In Young MC's own words, Bust a Move was a lot of people's first girlfriend in terms of rap music. And yet, I don't feel like the man himself has ever really got his due. Young MC was a pioneer. For one thing, he was the first rapper with Young in his name. Without him, we would not have Young Thug, Young Jock, Young M.A., Young Sheldon, and every other young rapper who's ever existed. And I'm sure he did other things too. So let us take a long look back at the man who taught us what to do whenever a fly honey looks your way. Move it, boy!
A girl runs up with something to prove, so don't just stand there, bust the move.
You want to step out with another man?
Hip-hop began at the dawn of the 80s. By 1990, hip-hop had reached the #1 spot on the Hot 100, with Ice Ice Baby, unfortunately, but that's still technically a rap song, so that was a big moment. That was also the year of Hammer. MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice aren't super respected today, but they were rap's first pop superstars. They proved that hip-hop could rule the world. But they didn't just spontaneously happen. The ground was already shaking before them. Now, Run DMC had reached the top 10, as had the Beastie Boys, who also had a #1 album, but those tracks were as much rock songs as they were hip-hop. Late 1988 is where hip-hop really starts to succeed entirely on its own terms, without pandering to the rock crowd. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince broke into the top 10. There was also Just a Friend, It Takes Two. Now these were all real well-known songs, but the highest charting rap song of the 80s came from a 22-year-old named Marvin Young, better known as Young MC. And in late 1988, he wrote the song that would scale all the way to #2, forever changing the course of hip-hop.
Working all week, 9 to 5 for my money.
The song I am talking about is, of course, Wild Thing by Tone Loc, a humongous hit at the time.
Oh, be my queen if you know what I mean. Let's do the wild thing.
You know, I'm not sure how Tone Loc is remembered. His flow was very simple, and he never had another hit after this year. He mostly became a fixture of early 90s kids' movies. But before that, Tone Loc was an actual rapper. I think he was considered pretty cool. He had that amazing voice. Arnold Schwarzenegger got his second most famous catchphrase directly from this song. With Wild Thing, he became the highest charting rapper ever.
You must be sure that your girl is pure for the funky cold Medina.
Tone Loc followed that up with another huge hit, Funky Cold Medina. Both of these hits were co-written by Young MC.
Put a little Medina in your glass and the girl will come real quick.
Like, these are both pretty good songs, but obviously this isn't NWA or anything. In fact, the way Tone Loc tells it, Young MC was brought in specifically to water these songs down. Loc says his original verses were really filthy, and the label didn't think they could sell that, so they brought Young MC in to write some cleaner lyrics. But for the pop charts, it was still pretty risque.
But that's what happens when bodies start slapping from doing the wild thing.
And it was something Young MC knew he couldn't do on his own. Marvin Young was a college kid. He was not gangsta. He never pretended to be. As opposed to Tone Loc, who had some level of street cred because his rap name came from gang slang, and he had that rough voice delivery. You'd think co-writing 2 big hits would boost Young MC as he worked on his debut record, but he says he was worried. He wrote those songs to fit Tone Loc's style, and he didn't know if his own style would measure up. I mean, could a kid like him ever get big?
Bust it.
It is very easy to identify the first thing that Bust a Move does right. So let's talk about that beat, which is one of the most killer samples hip-hop ever uncovered. It's from an extremely obscure early 70s jazz rock band named Ball and Jack, which is a pretty fucking great band name. And this is their song, Found a Child. Here comes the sample. I thought for sure those opening measures must have been remixed together from several other tracks. I cannot believe a band just spontaneously recorded those measures, yas and ha's included. This is a sample you dream about discovering. What a find.
Music comes on, people start to dance.
Bust a Move is a great dance song first and foremost. Like, who couldn't move to that? The beat does switch up a lot after the opening. We get some different drums here and there, and even funkier bass line that... Wait, is that Flea?
Man who brings home the bacon, got no money and you got no car.
Holy shit, that's Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Flea made the bass line to this. I had no idea. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers were not superstars in 1989. They did become superstars shortly after that. Was it the momentum from this song that launched them into the stratosphere? It's worth thinking about. But what about Young MC himself? What does he contribute?
On a mission and you're wishing someone could cure your lonely condition.
Much like Wild Thing and Funky Cold Medina, Bust a Move is about scoring chicks. But the tone is very different. Tone Loc raps from the perspective of a guy who knows he's gonna smash that night.
This is the 80s and Loc is down with the ladies.
Bust a Move is about, well, not about losers exactly, but it is about guys for whom getting laid is not a foregone conclusion.
Tell a funny joke just to get some play, then you try to make a move and she says no way.
It's also a fun snapshot into how dating worked in 1989.
It gets dark just to start the show, then you spot a fine woman sitting in your row.
You can just pick up chicks at the movies? Amazing. Nowadays you have to download an app and it's all much more complicated. What really strikes me about Bust a Move is Young MC's flow.
Girls are faking, goodness saking. They want a man who brings home the bacon.
Now, rap has obviously grown extensively since 1989. Even your poppiest pop rappers don't sound like Bust a Move. They try to sound a lot looser, more freestyle. Even your lamest, most sellout track will switch things up several times. Young MC does not do that.
New movie showing, so you're going. Could care less about the 5 you're blowing.
His rhyme scheme is so nailed on, it may as well be a sonnet. Every couplet is AA, then BB, or sometimes BBB, ending on the exact same beat every single time. It's as steady as a metronome. And the effect is very Dr. Seuss-y, especially because he uses really rhyming dictionary rhymes.
She's dressed in yellow, she says hello. Come sit next to me, you fine fellow.
And I don't mean they're basic. Like, these are rhymes I have never heard used by anybody.
You say Nito, check your libido and roll to the church in your new tuxedo.
Libido with tuxedo. Brilliant. Young MC's lyricism goes some weird places. Like take this line.
Frustration, first inclination is to become a monk and leave the situation. But every dark tunnel has a light of hope, so don't hang yourself with a celibate rope.
I have been fascinated for years with the celibate rope. What imagery. What a metaphor. I imagine it like a cursed artifact that someone found in a tomb somewhere. Beware all those who come near of the celibate rope. It curses thee with involuntary celibacy. Too many people have been touched by this one. And just the scenarios he describes are wild. This is the first place he tells you to bust a move.
Next day's function, high-class luncheon. Food is served and you're stone cold munching.
Right, this doesn't look like a high-class luncheon to me. And I'm not sure why people would be dancing at a classy function anyway. Or this line, the famous one about the wedding.
Your best friend Harry has a brother Larry. In 5 days from now he's gonna marry. He's hoping you can make it there if you can, cause in the ceremony you'll be the best man.
Just Harry would have been fine. But he's got to keep the rhyme pattern going, so Harry now has a brother Larry. And it just throws everything out of whack.
Best friend Harry has a brother Larry.
This line has puzzled people for decades, because It just makes no sense. Why would you be Larry's best man? You're Harry's best friend, not Larry. Do you even know Larry? Why wouldn't Larry make his brother Harry the best man? And the answer to that is, look, Harry and Larry aren't really talking right now. Some shit went down. It's just family drama. It's nothing you need to get involved with. You probably shouldn't have even agreed to be the best man, but, you know, Larry doesn't really have any guy friends, so it's a whole minefield, but someone had to do it. The real worry is if Harry drinks too much at the reception, because he'll probably start something and it'll be a mess, and someone's going to have to keep an eye on him during that. Don't even get me started on trying to plan the bachelor party. Jeez. What were we talking about? Like, the whole song's like that. Weird rhymes, making weird lines.
Down just to start the wedding, and there's one more girl you won't be getting. So you start thinking, then you start blinking. A bridesmaid looks and thinks that you're winking.
I think he means you're blinking back tears, I guess, and some girl thinks you're making a pass at her by crying. But the song moves too fast for you to really think about any of it. And regardless of any weird lyrics, the song still absolutely kills. See, Bust a Move strikes me as the last great old-school hip-hop song. And to be clear, by old school, we mean like the very first wave of hip-hop from the early 80s, where it was still just an offshoot of disco. You know, it was dance music, the songs went on forever. They were all about partying, they were upbeat and fun. And in the mid-80s, it became what we call golden age hip-hop, where rappers started using harder beats, bragging about their skills, writing actual structured singles. So Bust a Move is technically not old school, because, you know, it's not 40 minutes long. But it has that old school vibe. It's danceable, it's fun, it's not complicated, there's no ego, you don't have to think too hard about it.
Just bust a move.
But as good as it is, you can tell why Young MC could not follow it up. He wasn't a bad MC, but he wasn't one with a ton of personality. Tone Loc just had to say one word and he was the coolest man alive. Young MC wrote about guys struggling to get laid. He's not even writing about himself. His only hit was in the second person. I have listened to this song so many times, and yet afterwards, I just have no idea who he is. Young MC released one truly great follow-up to Bust a Move in 1990, and naturally it never charted, but I really love it, so I'm gonna play it for you now in its entirety. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Young MC with a story to tell. I just got a free cup from Taco Bell. NMTV makes the whole thing fun. Buy a giant-sized Pepsi and you'll get one. 4 cups in all, so don't stand still. And if you have an empty cup, you get a free refill.
What a year 1990 was. I love that this exists.
Taco Bell only has them for a limited time. That's why I'm coming to you with a limited rhyme. To get these cups, you gotta place your order. So take my advice, you better run for the border.
30 seconds ago, that did not exist in your life, and now it does. You're welcome. You did a Pepsi can commercial earlier that year, too.
Pick up Pepsi in these hype receptacles.
But that one's not as good. You can skip that one.
Now, normally, if I can help it, I don't spend a lot of time in a principal's office.
Outside of the promotional beverage container genre, he also released some real music. The actual song he released that year was called Principal's Office. It's about acting out in class, getting sent to the principal's office. You know, it's like a bunch of funny stories.
When I get to the room, I hear the teacher say, Mr. Young, I'm happy that you could join us today.
Look, Young MC says he wasn't trying to copy anyone else's style, but this is just parents just don't understand in high school.
The teacher got upset and she screamed out, no, it's off to the principal's office you go.
Take it from me, teachers just don't understand. I don't even like Parents Just Don't Understand. I don't think it's aged very well at all. I've never liked these story rap songs with no hook, and Principal's Office does not establish Young MC as someone with the charisma of a Will Smith.
Picked up my tray that had Thursday's lunch, and when I tried the applesauce, I heard it crunch.
These stories aren't funny. They're not even relatable. They're just boring. At least the Fresh Prince kidnapped a 12-year-old and got arrested. That actually happens. Go back and re-listen to that song. It's just very kiddie and not much fun to listen to. But it did crack the top 40, barely. It even got nominated for an MTV award in 1990. It lost to You Can't Touch This, which is probably correct. He released one more single that year. I didn't really feel it. I don't like that 80s synth bass. If you want my opinion, the real standout on that record is Know How.
The busiest rhymes ever made by man are going into this mic written by this hand, are coming out of this mouth made by this tongue. I tell you now, my man, my name is Young, but so you think that this your destiny to get the best of me, but
I mean, that's the one where he really starts showing some skills. And I guess someone agreed because it popped up later on the Baby Driver soundtrack. He also won an American Music Award that year. Clearly things were looking up. Okay, so it's 1991. The times are changing. It is no longer the 80s, and Tone Loc is no longer down with the ladies. I'm not sure what killed Young MC's career. He had the big hit, he jumped to a big label, and you'd think with the explosion of Hammer and Ice, the market was now wide open. You'd think there'd be a big wide door for a proven hitmaker like Young MC, but that didn't happen. I think what might have happened is that in 1990, yes, we realized that hip-hop could go pop and go multi-bajillion times platinum, but we realized that hip-hop also could become lame, which was a concept that hadn't really existed before then. But pop rap still persisted for quite a bit before gangster rap took over. So the other possibility is that Young MC wasn't good enough an MC. He released many singles from several records over the next 10 years. I listened to them, most of them I immediately forgot. I do want to shout out this one from his second album. It's called Keep It In Your Pants.
So you better know for sure about the gun before you take a chance. And for now you better keep it in your pants.
It's just kind of blowing me away that during my childhood, rappers would just casually drop songs about not fucking, because we were living through a deadly sex epidemic.
Baby Tom, Dick, Harry, Stephen, Joe, and Barry, John, Paul, George, Nigga, Curly, Moe, and Larry. Did it, got with it, smooth hit it.
I'm just amazed that this song exists. Like, he's writing about sex. I mean, not having sex, but still, explicitly about sex. On what looks like the set of a kid's game show. That kind of kid-friendly positivity is not something we'd want in hip-hop much longer. Other than that, his career is mostly interesting in that you can watch him trying in vain to keep up with the times. Here he is in 1991 trying to sound like CNC Music Factory. Here he is in 1993 trying to sound like Naughty by Nature. I mean, this isn't bad, but knowing what I know about him trying to sell himself as a gangster, no, I don't buy it. And I'm guessing no one else did either. Here he is in 1997 trying to sound like, I don't know, kind of sounds a bit like Coolio's 1, 2, 3, 4. And for what it's worth, anyone trying to tell me that Young MC is not a one-hit wonder because the principal's office broke the top 40, it's a second hit. Yeah, okay, this song right here is from the album Return of the One-Hit Wonder, so I consider that pretty definitive. Young MC blames these songs' failure on lack of promotional support. Yeah, so much changed in rap music so fast, I bet the label probably wrote him off as a relic of a very different time. After 1997, he was dropped from the major labels and only self-released afterwards. Like this record.
I ain't going out like that. I ain't going out like that. I ain't going out like that.
Ooh, let me tell you, the combination of that album title and that half-assed cover art is just the saddest thing I've ever seen. Young MC mostly tours the nostalgia circuit now. He made a really great appearance in the movie Up in the Air. George Clooney crashes a software conference with his lady friend. Young MC is there performing Bust a Move.
Special Alpha Tech guest, Young MC!
This here's a gym for all the fellas. Try to do what those ladies tell us.
Young MC is just like the perfect person to be there because, one, he's the only person who would be plausibly playing a show that 40-something office workers would get into, but B, also be the greatest date ever.
She wanna dance cause she likes the group.
He's playing Bust a Move! Woo! I think the fact that he made Bust a Move just on its own deserves him a little more credit than he has currently. And that first record actually does have some pretty solid tunes on it. But he definitely never made a spot for himself in the 90s, and I can't really say anything he ever made stuck out to me. But maybe if he'd had some stronger hooks, he could have been the 90s version of Flo Rida. Pop rap never goes away. So yeah, you know what? Let's give it up for the man. The next time a girlie runs up with something to prove, what comes next? Well, you know. Good night.
You want it? You got it. You want it? Baby, just bust a move. I wanted to chill, but making all of my travel arrangements was freaking me out.